Hello all, Preston Buchanan here, and the case that I was assigned and also partially chose was Plessy versus Ferguson, which was a monumental case for the history of American government and not exactly in a positive way. It, in a sense, had a negative impact. And it kind of pushed forth the Jim Crow laws to a very high extent. And was a case that didn't go the way most Americans would have liked it to today. But back then, it was kind of just, it is what it is. And kind of sparked a separate but equal phrase, which is not true, but it kind of sparked that, which we'll get into. But to start, for the facts of the case started with Homer Plessy, who came to court and tried to fight for his rights, which he felt were violated. And the situation in which he felt his rights were violated was he was on a train. He bought a first class train ticket in Louisiana, and he what looked to be a full black man tried to sit in a white only seat and was removed. And once he tried to argue he's 7/8 Caucasian, 1/8 African blood, they weren't having it. They tried to kick him off, and which they did, and sent him to jail. So he came to court to try to say that this situation violated his rights that were given to him by the 13th and 14th Amendment. So, in the case, he lost it, which is why, and the reason he lost it, the court deems is that it did not violate his constitutional rights. The Constitution says that his rights are guaranteed within like jury duty and voting, and not for social equality, social status, as for like schooling, where they go to the bathroom at. That's where the separate but equal thing comes into play. So the constitutional question, to reiterate, was, did the Separate Car Act violate the 13th and 14th Amendment to the Constitution? And the argument that the judges had in the case, the vote was 7-1 against Plessy that the law did not violate the Constitution. And the argument that they had was, we consider the underlying fallacy of the plaintiff's argument to consist in assumption that the enforced separation of the two races stamps the colored race with a badge of inferiority. If this is to be so, it is not by reason of anything found in the act, but solely because the colored race chooses to put that construction on it. So the judges in this case tried to say that they're separate but equal, and if they feel inferior, it's because that's what they think, and that's not the truth, which is very incorrect. John Marshall Harlan, which was he was a slave owner actually before, but changed his mind after the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacist groups went crazy. So he dissented it and disagreed with the court's final ruling. And also, to touch on it, it was 7-1 because one of the judges could not attend because of his daughter's health issues. So it was only 7-1 and not having 9 complete votes. So the opinion of the court is that basically it is true that the question of the proportion of colored blood necessary to constitute a colored man's person as distinguished from a white person is upon which there is a difference of opinion in the different states. So basically, they're giving Louisiana the right to choose what they do in these type of situations. And John Marshall Harlan disagreed with the entire. He was the one vote. He disagreed with them in saying that everyone knows that the statue in question had its origin in the purpose not so much to exclude white persons from railroad cars occupied by blacks as to exclude colored people from coaches occupied or assigned by white persons. The thing to accomplish was, under the guise of giving equal accommodations for whites and blacks, to compel the latter to keep themselves while traveling in railroad passenger coaches. No one would be so wanting in candor as to assert contrary. So he's basically saying this is how it is, and that's how it is, just because basically the blacks are seen as inferior in this. So here's to touch on the separate but equal. Here's an example. This is the schooling, which Brown Board of Education would overrule this whole case by saying separate but equal is not constitutional and it's not true. So basically, the overall impact of this case, Plessy versus Ferguson, is it put forth separate but equal as being a constitutional aspect of America, which we lived through the Jim Crow laws and continued for a long time. So thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed.